All right, the webinar has started. Looks like we've already got quite a few people on the call. So excited to have you all here. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Abby Pankos. It's nice to meet you all. We also have Dylan Sellers here and Mike Maziarz, and you'll meet them in just a couple minutes. Very, very timely bunch here. People right on time. Throughout this webinar, we're going to encourage you to use the chat feature. If you're not familiar with Zoom, it should pop up at the bottom of your screen. And let's just get to know people. If you want to share your name and where you're from, whether that's your company or your city and state or both, we'd love to hear from you.
We're also going to do FAQ or Q&A at the end. So drop any questions you have now or throughout the session, and we'll be happy to answer them at the very end.
Yeah.
And hopefully if we do this right, we answer some during the webinar. So
yeah. I can also enthusiastically interrupt Dylan as needed for your questions. So let us know and don't be shy. We've got quite a few people here. This is great. All right. We will give people, let's do 1 more minute to allow people to join. We still have a few trickling in. Welcome to everyone who missed our little preamble. My name's Abby Pankos. I'm Senior Product Marketing Manager for Observe Point. We'll do intros in a bit, but thank you so much for joining us today. We are really excited for the content that Dylan and Mike have prepared around rules and alerts. And if you're willing, let's just kind of practice the chat feature. Maybe send us where you're from, whether it's your company or where you're living. We'd love to know who else is here. Let's see, we've got a hand up from Allison. Allison, I think I just made it so you could speak.
Yeah, hi, thanks. It says that the chat, the host has disabled the chat, so we can't I can't put anything in there.
Oh my gosh, thank you for letting me know. Attendees can chat with everyone. How's this?
Yeah, that's done it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Allison.
Should we get started?
Yeah, let's go ahead and get started. We've got Tyra. Oh, there's lots of people chatting. I'm so sorry, guys. All right, well, let's go ahead and kick off. So my name is Abby Pankos. I'm the Senior Product Marketing Manager here at Observe Point. We are so glad that everyone joined us today to talk about rules and alerts. I'll kick it over to Mike to introduce himself, and then Dylan, and we will dive into our content. Mike, go ahead.
Perfect. Thanks everyone for joining. Mike Maziarz, Product Manager here at Observe Point. Worked with many of you in the customer success department as well. So it's always great to see old names and friends on the call today. So if you have any questions anytime today or after the call, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm always available and look forward to working with you.
Awesome. Yes, Mike's a legend. My name is Dylan Sellers. I'm the head of customer success here at Observe Point. I work with every single one of our customers. So I get kind of the unique perspective of watching a lot of customers implement use cases and hearing customer feedback. And we love it. And I love when you guys challenge us to create better solutions all the time. Mike and I are, just excited about this topic, and we'll invite you to drop questions in the chat, and hopefully we'll cover it with some of the content we share today, but also we'll stay on at the very end until all the questions are answered. So we're excited. Let's go ahead and kick it back to you, Abby.
All right, so our agenda today, we'll just do a very quick recap about what we talked about in TipJar episode 2. And where you can see that content if you'd like. And then Dylan and Mike will dive into alerts and tag and variable rules. And we'll finish up with Q&A. But feel free to ask questions throughout the chat, throughout the meeting via chat. So we can go ahead and talk about episode 2 really quick. So if you weren't here last time, we called it Sharing is Caring. we talked about new features in Observe Point around shareable links, and then the new use case overviews, which was a change to the UX that made it much easier to kind of see everything all in one place based on what your role is at your company. If you would like to rewatch that webinar, we have the link here. I'll also drop it in the chat, and we always post these videos online after the episode. So this one will also be recorded if you have to leave early or want to share it with someone else.
Awesome. So I'm gonna take it from here, Abby. Thank you. And like Abby said, she'll drop that resource in the link in the chat, so you can go ahead and watch that. It was a great session. Recommend it if you haven't already watched it. Today we're going to talk about alerts and tag and variable rules, as we said. And we should start by giving you a little context and background about alerts for those of you who are, maybe less familiar with alerts and the capability. We did launch this feature back in December and have had a kind of steady rollout. And many of you are familiar with some of the notification capabilities we had before in Observe Point, but alerts just maximize what we could alert on, and has really changed the game for a lot of our customers. So we're excited to go deeper into it today, share some tips and tricks, and let you and make sure you feel confident adopting alerts. And I think that one of the things you'll find is that alerts are very flexible. They're used for many more data types than tag and variable rules are used for, and that they allow you to kind of open the door and start a conversation with other people within your organization about Observe Point because of the different applications, the different use cases that are now available through alerts. So alerts themselves are just a notification with special settings and customization operators and custom messages, et cetera. And we'll talk about how to roll them out in an effective way. And we even have some best practice alerts we'll share with you today. So talking about alert strategy, I want to make sure that we're all familiar with a few principles of strategy with alerts before we dive into the tips and tricks. So the principle number one of alert strategy is to build alerts for specific audiences. And so it's really critical that you are thinking about who are those people at my organization that could benefit from this? Who are the people that could be taking advantage of the software that we already have monitoring web pages? And Observe Point will continue to deliver more and more value and give you more and more bang for your buck, as we say, and add more tests that you can run on your website, but those are going to come in the form of alerts. And so while we're scanning these, 1,000 pages, 10,000 pages, 100,000 pages, your entire website, we'll continue to add more alerts, and that just means more incremental value to these audits that we're running. Alerts is an audit-only feature today, and so there you'll notice that we'll emphasize that. But hopefully we have support for alerts and journeys in the near future. So what I want to do is share as principle number two, which is to define a global tagging standard. So number one, make sure you have a good audience, like figure out those audiences. You could be sending Observe Point alerts to content managers. You could be sending it to product managers. You could be sending it to privacy and compliance teams, to IT team members, and QA engineers. There's a whole group of audiences, and you should be thinking about and grouping these by audience. Now, the global standard principle is really important. If you can figure out what should I know about every single page? What is good or what is considered healthy on every single page? What are those standards? And once I have those global standards defined, you can then apply these alerts in bulk to various audits across your Observe Point instance, and you can suddenly scale this monitoring of your website in a very clean and easy to use fashion. So you're going to get a lot more effective if you define that global standard and work to roll that out across all these audits. The third principle is to make these alerts rare unless they are critical. So you guys, imagine if you had 3 different alarm clocks in your bedroom, you woke up in the morning and you had to turn off all 3, right? That would get obnoxious quickly, and pretty soon you would throw the alarm clock at the wall. But if you make sure that when you create these alerts that you have set them with good conditions, and you set them with good operators, and you set them to go off for important things that matter to you, then you're more likely to adopt them and to take action on them. And that's what we want. We want this to be an effective alarm that helps you solve important problems for your business and for the website. So the example I like to give is page load time. So you can create an alert around page load time and actually set a threshold. But should you set that threshold at 3 seconds, which is Google's standard for best practice for websites? Or should you set it at 10 seconds, knowing that the average page load time on your website might be 12 seconds today, or it might be 8 seconds? We should figure out what is an acceptable threshold for you to get started. Don't bite off more than you can chew. But the exception is if it's rare. So for example, or sorry, if it's critical for your business. So for example, if it's a compliance issue, you probably want to make sure you're alerted of every unapproved cookie. You probably don't want to be alerted of, when there's greater than 10 unapproved cookies on your website, you probably want to address every single one of them, in which case, set that threshold accordingly. Principle number 4 is to leverage the account-wide alerts report. That's a really, really important report, and we'll probably flash it on the screen today so you can see it, but it's a great place to launch and into action. It's a great kind of home base for you to identify all these different issues that are going on across various web properties, and then to take action. So now we're going to dive into tips and tricks. I just want to review those principles of strategy with you. If you have questions about strategy or anything we shared, just drop it in the chat. Okay, so tips and tricks time. I'm going to go ahead and swipe over to this audit of ExxonMobil.com. ExxonMobil is one of the 10th largest companies in the world. They're not an Observe Point customer today, and I generally use them as examples. We respect our customers' privacy and confidentiality. We're not going to share those on here. But Exxon is definitely a company in the public sector. But it's generally not their website. There aren't very many consumers going to ExxonMobil.com. They're usually going to the gas station or to use one of their products. But so their website isn't necessarily like a classic. It's not like an e-commerce website. There's a lot of traffic, but it's a good example for us to look at. So here I'm looking at the alerts report on ExxonMobil.com, and we just did, I think this is a 100-page sample size. So tip number 1 I want to share with you is that you don't have to subscribe yet to these alerts to start to get value out of them. And so what we've done here is we've applied these alerts. We can see that I haven't subscribed to a single one of these alerts yet. They've just been applied. And the beauty of this is that you start to get, Observe Point starts to process the data and start to collect history. And so, for example, if I want to know how long we've had broken links across ExxonMobil.com, I can actually click on the history icon and see how long this has been a problem and see it go up and down over time. So that's really, really valuable. So don't delay adding alerts just because you're not ready to subscribe to them yet. But don't forget to subscribe, because ultimately that's what we want to deliver value to you. And the value, like if we suppress these notifications, if we suppress the alarms, then you're not going to be inspired to act on these insights. So make sure you are subscribing to these, but make sure you don't delay it either. Okay. Number 2, apply to all future audits. I love this feature. It's super valuable. So for example, if I determine that broken links anywhere across any audit I run, I want to know about broken links. This should be a global standard. I can go into the data sources section of the alerts configuration here, and I can click add this as a default alert to all new future data sources that I create. This is super, super useful. Imagine working at an organization where you have multiple team members in Observe Point, and they're all creating audits. Now you don't have to worry about training and educating these, more senior team members or even brand new team members about what are those global standards. Instead, you simply check this box, and you can actually check this other box to retroactively apply it to all audits in your account. So from now on, every audit in my account is going to be scanning for and looking for broken links. And once you subscribe to that, you can actually get the notification whenever these audits complete. So super, super powerful to check that box. It just takes a lot of overhead off your plate, and make sure that this truly is a global standard. Okay. The next principle is to preview before you subscribe. There's a preview capability here at the bottom. And the reason why we ask you to do this or point this out to you is because we want you to know, like, before you go and subscribe, how frequently and how often this alarm is going to go off, right? If it's going off every day and we're running this audit daily, then you probably want to know that before you go ahead and subscribe. So just look at the history here, and you can actually tweak or modify these operators. So you might say, well, I'm actually going to notify myself if I see any changes, or if I see this increase by a certain percentage. I like to be very aggressive and just say, hey, if there's any issues, notify me, because I want a reminder until it gets done. But just bear that in mind. Speaking of reminders, there is this setting to specify when alerts are sent. And I actually want to call this out. This is a bonus tip I did not plan, but this is super important. So there's 2 options. One is to notify you each time it's triggered, which we call the nagging feature, right? It just keeps reminding you, it brings it back to the surface every time this audit runs. And the other one is to do it once. It's notify you once when it's triggered, newly triggered, or triggered for the first time. And it resets each time the alert is no longer triggered. So for example, if today I had broken links, I would be notified. But then tomorrow, if that broken links persisted and I ran this audit again tomorrow, then I wouldn't get that notification until I had resolved all of them. I like the more aggressive kind of nagging functionality because it, again, reminds me, and if I'm running this every week, it's a weekly reminder to go and address these broken links. So bonus tip there. I wanted to call it also filters and getting creative with filters. This is principle number 4. So if we look at the alert logic, there's this filter page, and you can actually, when you create an alert within the reports, you actually have all the filters automatically applied in the alert creation process, but you can retroactively add filters and change these filters later on. One of the examples I like to give is, let's say in this broken links example, we have someone that manages content on a blog page, and I want to make sure that that person receives a specific alert for their blog pages and broken links on their pages that they manage. So now I apply a simple filter here, and they will be notified and alerted. And then when they drill into this report, when they get the notification, actually drill into the report, and it will pre-filter by blog pages. So again, when they get into Observe Point, maybe you grant them read-only access, they get in and they can actually see just the alerts, the broken link alerts associated with their pages that they manage. And obviously you could duplicate this and make different combinations of filters for different audiences. So this is super helpful for scaling it and disseminating Observe Point into the hands of various users within your organization. Apply those filters and get creative. And one key thing is that you understand how many types of filters there are. There are so many combinations of filters that allow you to create new types of alerts that never exist in Observe Point. There are literally thousands, if not unlimited combinations of alerts that you can now create. And you're going to have to, but really the key is to understand filters and how you can leverage these. So bear that in mind, that these filters will allow you to create all kinds of combinations of alerts. So for example, page size alerts, page status code alerts that didn't exist before, or custom page load time alerts. So play around with those and explore those. Those are critical. Another quick tip, number 5, is to know that when you reprocess, either rules or comparisons or consent categories, that when you reprocess, that these will actually trigger the alerts again. So if you want to see an example of what that alert will look like, the email notification, et cetera, you hit reprocess consent categories or rules or comparisons, and it will be triggered. So that you don't have to run the audit again for how these alerts be triggered. Just bear that in mind. The last tip is a pretty simple one, but I think it's something we don't think about very often, which is prioritization of alerts. So one of the things you can do is we don't necessarily have a priority like drop down that you can select from today, but what we can do is you can actually edit any alert, and you can go ahead and add text that just says, high priority. Or in the world of, Jira, I think people use P3 or priority 3 or priority 1. You may also have another way to make it a little more colorful, I like, is to add emojis. So you can add, exclamation points or warnings emojis, and that's just another way to draw to your attention. And so when you get that email notification, or if you get that notification into a Microsoft Teams channel or a Slack channel, you then have just a little bit of color to add to the alert and to remind yourself of the urgency of this particular alert. So that's tip number 6 on alerts. Hopefully that's super helpful. Let's go back to our slides. Again, if you have questions about alerts and there are other tips and tricks you'd like to see or learn more about, go ahead and drop it in the chat. We can cover them at the end. Here's a summary of all the tips and tricks we just mentioned. So I know some of you are taking notes. You can take a screenshot of this now, or you can ask us for a copy of the deck after the webinar, or get access to the recording after the webinar. So just want to leave that here for you, and you can review any of these principles after, and reach out to your customer success manager if you want to review these or dive deeper into any of these topics. They'll be more than happy to help. Okay, tag and variable rules. So tag and variable rules have been around a lot longer than alerts, and tag and variable rules are essentially the tool that we have used at Observe Point to process data collected through these marketing technologies. And it's important that we understand there's kind of two levels. There's the tag level of the rule, and then there's variable level. And there's tons of cool things we can do with tag and variable rules. And we'll talk about some of the strategy and the tips and tricks today. So number one is to look before you leap. And by that, I mean, make sure to explore and do some discovery in the tag inventory reports and the variable summary reports. If you look at those two reports, you'll get to see in advance what is the actual distribution of your Google Tag Manager or Adobe Launch or Telium. You'll be able to see the distribution of the technologies and see if it's actually on 100% of pages. And you may find very quickly that the pages missing one of those technologies are pages that should be exceptions or that you've decided are exceptions. So for example, your careers pages, your blog pages, your investor pages on your website. Just bear that in mind that you should go and do some discovery before you slap this rule on there that says, hey, every single page should have Adobe Analytics or every single page should have Google Tag Manager. So do some discovery and explore it first. That's really, really important. Then you can add preconditions that exclude pages like blog pages, career pages, or investor pages, or simply other pages that you don't manage. Now, we always want to open the door to govern those pages too. So you may actually end up reaching out to someone on the blog side of the business and say, hey, did you realize we're not in the same tech stack? And maybe we should actually talk about consolidating tech stacks and simplifying or unifying the data we're collecting. So there's also good there that could be had of just having that conversation and doing that discovery. Okay, principle number two is actually, strategy number two is actually the same as alerts. It's create a global tagging standard. And so figure out what those tags are that you expect to be on 100% of pages or nearly 100% and define those inside of a rule and call it your global tagging standard. Don't get into the weeds of defining all the variable conditions now. You can go ahead and do that later and actually layer these rules on top of each other, which is a really good strategy. I see a lot of people that get a little too paranoid or paralyzed, I should say, with all the decisions and all the types of rules that they could create. And they neglect to check for the most basic standards, like, is the tag present? Is my tag management system there? So make sure you start there and then go deeper. That's strategy tip number three is go do tag presence level first, and then go deeper into the variables. It's really, really important that you start high level and get value immediately, and then go deeper into the specific variable definitions and conditions. Okay, number four is to consider creating rules by page category. So if you have landing pages, product detail pages, public pages, product category pages, there's lots of different types of pages that will be specific to your business. And you want to make sure that I would recommend breaking these rules out by those different categories to help save you time. Now, you don't necessarily need to create specific variable and value conditions for every single page, every product on your website. That would be overkill. But start by defining those categories and figuring out what are the variables that are standard for those types of pages, and use that as a starting point. Now, there's all kinds of cool stuff we can do with rules and various strategies that customers have been implementing. So I recommend you reach out to customer success and talk about other strategies as well, because there's more to it. If you're struggling to implement this, or you're feeling like you're in that state of paralysis, just reach out to us. We'd love to help. Okay, let's get into tips and tricks. So I'm going to actually come back here, and we're going to start with tip number one, which is to use regular expressions for variable names. And I'm going to give you an example. So I'm going to create a rule real fast. I'm going to call it example rule because I'm super creative. And I'm going to go into conditions, and I'm going to pick Adobe Analytics as my example. I'm going to add a variable condition here, and I'm going to say, I'm going to make a condition for EVARs. And rather than have to define every single EVAR and say that every single EVAR is set, or make sure every EVAR is capturing, I'm just going to define I'm just going to use regular expressions to multiply my efforts. So I'm going to click matches regular expression. And there's a couple ways you could write a regular expression. You could do 0 through 9 here, or you could do \d, which is any digit. But what this should do is it should say I'm expecting to look at any variable with the letter V in the name, followed by a number, right? So this would cover EVARs 0 through 9. And I could go on to add another \d, and this would actually cover any numbers between 10 and 99. And I can, make this second one optional maybe if I want to. So this should be 0 through 9 or 0 through 100. If I'm doing this right, and I'm writing regex on the fly. So if I get this wrong, you guys can be compassionate and and actually tell me in the chat what I'm doing wrong, because I'd like to know. But that should be a very basic regular expression that should match all, evarb 0 through 99. So then I can use these different operators, and for now I'll just say is set, but you could also get more advanced and use regular expression operators too. So for example, I could just say, hey, I'll just say, I need to know that evar 0 through 9 are set, and they're capturing something because those are my 10, core global page view variables. Then I can do that now. The trade-off here is that when you actually get the alert failing, you're gonna have to go and we won't be able to call out the exact evar that's missing. It'll just say this condition failed. So you'll have to do a little bit of exploration, but it can save you a lot of time in implementing and rolling out evar conditions or variable conditions. So just consider other combinations of regular expressions you could use. Second tip is data layer mapping and mapping for other tags as well. So let's say I'm, Adobe Analytics is the technology I want to govern here. And there's a particular evar, we'll say evar 0, which I use for campaigns. I want to also, and I want to compare this now to the data layer. And there's a specific value in the data layer. Actually, let's not do evar 0. Let's do like evar 8. And let's say that this is page name. So I'm going to go to, when I go to selectors, you're going to not pick string. You're going to pick either data layer, or you can pick from our entire tag library. But let's pick data layer for now. And then let's assume that the variable in the data layer is named data.pagename. And then that maps in our, our SDR or whatever our data layer documentation. We expect that to map to evar 8. So here I can actually create a rule that checks and compares these two. Okay, now this is a pretty cool application already, very valuable, but let's get into another cool one. I'm not going to go into full detail here, but if you're familiar with the Observe Point custom tags, this is a tool that you can use to scrape information off of a web page. And let's say you're an e-commerce company and you're having issues, validating or confirming that the total checkout cost or total checkout value of an entire cart is, says some number, and you want to make sure that that matches what your data layer says. You want to make sure it's also matching Adobe Analytics. You can work with our support team or customer success team, or do it yourself, create a custom tag that actually scrapes that value off of the HTML on the page. We can grab that information, and then you can use this same tag variable mapping concept to compare and validate that the number that's being displayed as the total cost of that cart or checkout purchase actually matches the data layer and all the analytics that is governing that purchase, right? Or measuring that purchase. So another super, super cool application. Talk to us if you want help setting that up. And then the third one is alerts for rules, which I want to call out. So you can create alerts for rules. And I'm going to go back to our ExxonMobil audit and go into the rule itself, the rule summary, tag and variable rules. And you can see here we have a rule. This is actually a bad example because it's going off on almost every page. It's not a true global tagging standard. Global tagging standards should have rare exceptions of failure. But I'm going to go in here and I'm actually going to click on this button. You can see here the pages. And actually I can go into the top filter section, and I'm going to say I want to create a rule name filter. So I'm going to just search global, and it will already pre-populate the name of the rule. It now has that rule applied across the entire report. And then I can either create an alert on total rule failures by clicking this bell icon, or I can do rule failures down here. It's basically the same thing. In this case, I'll just go to rule failure instances, and I can call it, I can give it a name specific to this standard. So global tagging standard failed. Right. And then you notice that that filter is already pre-applied. I can either hit create, or I can go on to customize further that alert and do more with it. The nice thing about this is it then unlocks all these operators that you can take advantage of. It unlocks the custom messaging that you can take advantage of. It unlocks the nagging functionality that you can take advantage of. And you can then apply this as a global standard. So really, really cool. All right. That's it for tips on rules. And just doing a quick time check. It looks like we're about to wrap up. I want to turn the time over actually to, here's the summary. Again, I should flash this up on the page so you can take a screenshot here. And then I'm going to turn the time over to Mr. Mike Maziarz. Oh, one thing before I hand it over to Mike, there's a recommended alerts opportunity where we can, if you reach out to me, we're going to, and just reach out to my email on the bottom right, dylan@observepoint.com. We're actually going to send you, inject all these recommended alerts into your instance of ObservePoint. So with the click of a button, we're just going to push all these alerts into your account. You can start to play with these. They all have predefined custom messages and good operators and other settings. And then once they're in your account, you can choose to apply them to different audits really quickly, and you can also subscribe to them. So just to kind of kickstart your journey with alerts, we can do all this. Notice we have various types broken out here. So just reach out to me, dylan@observepoint.com. Happy to send those over to you, or reach out to your customer success manager because they can do the same thing. So that's my invitation and a little challenge for you if you haven't gotten alerts set up yet in your account. So to you, Mike.
Perfect. Thanks, Dylan. Excited to see all those new ways you can use some of our older legacy technology of tag and variable rules, and then also our latest and greatest of alerts. And I highly recommend using alerts on top of your variable rules, because it'll just unleash a lot of power of how to get notified on those. With that, we are enhancing this even further. So right now we are beginning work, and have started work, I should say, on our next big release, which is called Notification Profiles. And this is essentially allowing you to manage all of your notification destinations in a single place. So currently in ObservePoint, you have audits, you have journeys, rules, alerts, and each of those you can apply a destination, meaning like you can add an email or a webhook or whatever it may be to those. And you have to kind of manage those all in a singular isolated place. And so this, what we're going to do is actually migrate all those into a single notification profile library, where you can see, if you have your product team or something email address as a destination, you can actually have that one place and apply it to many things, or you can remove it from many things, all in one place. You don't have to go to each single item and update that or remove it. So let's say someone leaves your company, you can quickly go to that notification desk profile and remove it from all things with one fell swoop. And the second thing you'll be able to do as well with this is not only just make your life easier being able to manage these different locations, is have snoozing capabilities as well. So let's say you're having a release come up and or maybe there's an issue you already know about, and it can't get into a couple sprints for developers to fix for a little bit, and you don't want to be notified about it. You can actually snooze that until just for a couple of days, or you can say, hey, go and snooze it from this date to this date. So it'll make your life a lot easier in that aspect. And one question that Tyrone actually had in the chat here was, can these alerts be shared with shared links? We just this last March, we launched the ability to share audit reports to non-ObservePoint users, and they could see the information or get insights without having to have a login. And so Tyrone was wondering, well, can I share an alert with somebody that doesn't have a login, and so they can see the report what's going on? And so currently no, but with that idea, I'm actually, Tyrone, I just chatted Clint, and we're going to work on that today and see if we can squeeze it into notification files, so you can perhaps have a guest notification file that will send out a shared link. So I don't know if it's possible yet, but I'm going to try for you. So that's a great question and a phenomenal idea. So this will be coming out probably mid-summer-ish. So look forward to that. And then as we get closer, we'll probably demo this and show it to you on an upcoming TipJar.
Awesome. We know we're just over time, so if people have to drop off, you're welcome to. We're open for Q&A. I did have a question come in for someone about costs and licenses. So like all this is part of the platform. Everything we showed you today is already included in the ObservePoint platform, and that includes notification profiles coming out soon. So there's no additional cost for any of these functionality we talked about today, which we're always thrilled about. So giving you more bang for your buck, giving you more value. So other questions, we're available for. I will also call out that Abby did drop in a link to Edge. If you guys haven't looked at Edge yet, it's an awesome event that we're hosting out here in September. So take a look at it, check your calendar. I think there's early bird pricing you can take advantage of. Today is the last day possibly. So go and have a chat with your boss. We'd love to have you come out here in person and be with you. So we also, again, we'll be here for questions. So I think there's a couple coming in. Allison, Mike, maybe you can answer Allison's.
Yeah, Allison, I would be happy to demo to you and get your feedback on a one-on-one call. So I don't know if you want to connect with your your support team member here at Observe Point, and we can get a call scheduled. But happy to show it one-on-one or demo to anybody and get feedback from you. So that's something we love to do. Yeah, hit up your Observe Point contact and let's get on the call here soon.
Yeah, the invites to everyone on the call. Like if any of you want to see your demo, some of the new functionality, or give feedback on some of our designs, we'd love to have you be a part of the process.
Yeah, and you can email me directly if you don't know who your contact is. I'm just mike@observepoint.com, and we can get that figured out. So
we're on a first name basis here with our emails. Mike, Dylan, and Abby. I guess we got to get Abby a first name email.
Yeah, if you're new, you have to have 2 names.
You got to come here early and reserve your name. So
yeah.
All right.
Cool. Well, thanks everyone for joining us today. You might have seen in the chat, we really want to make sure that the content on TipJar is relevant to you and helpful. So if you'd be willing to just fill out this very quick survey, letting us know what you think, or go ahead and send me or Dylan or Mike, anyone, a direct email with any feedback you have. We really want to make sure we build this webinar program to be as useful as possible for you. So please let us know any feedback you might have. Thanks again to Dylan and Mike for so much help. Shout out to Allison for making sure we turned on the chat. That was extremely helpful. So thanks again, everyone. We will see you soon. Well, our next episode will be in about 4 weeks, but at the end of June. Just keep an eye out from emails letting you know the exact date and time.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good one.